Okay, welcome back to the Conversations that Heal. Today I'm joined by Sue Day, an ADHD coach who works one on one with women to help them see their ADHD brain as a strength and not a flaw. So she takes a whole person, strength based approach. No shame, no just try harder, and no complicated systems that collapse in real life. So I absolutely love that. And instead, she shares practical strategies that actually work for your brain. She's also an author of The ADHD Brilliance, a research backed guide to building confidence, productivity, and self trust with an ADHD brain. Good for you, man. That's fantastic. So, Sue, welcome to the show. We've talked before. I'm really looking forward to speaking with you again. Can you,
Yeah.
tell us about how you became a coach? Tell us your story.
All right. Well, thanks for the wonderful introduction. I'm so happy to be here talking to you and really love talking to other people who are excited about finding our strengths. This what my coaching program always said was what you pay attention to grows. So if we pay
Oh,
attention
sure.
to our strengths, yeah, then we can move mountains, right? So I've been a coach for almost 4 years now that I finished my program and started doing the ADHD coaching to begin with. And it's been an amazing journey just this past 4 years. But in order to get there, it was a whole nother story and many other worlds. So I got diagnosed in 1988,
Wow.
which is a really early for a woman to get diagnosed.
Yeah.
I was 16 years old. I was a disaster. I dropped out of high school and started working. And that was one of the first places I actually was thriving. I was like, oh, working, I can be of service. I can do this. I know what I'm doing. I know why I'm doing it. It was beautiful. So I started working. I was working on a farm, got my hands in the dirt. It was one of the best things for ADHD is getting out, getting physical, getting your hands in the dirt. And so that was my medicine for a little while. A couple of years in, I went to college. I got myself a degree in outdoor education for social change. After trying 5 different colleges and 5 different majors, I was seeking something, and I finally found it in my own creation because most of us ADHDers, we're creative. We're really good at figuring out what new systems, and that's what I needed to do for
Nice.
high school or not college. And then I went on a whirlwind roller coaster of 5 different careers. I decided I was going to work with kids, teenagers. They ate me
Mm.
alive. And so I
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
okay, well, I guess I can't work with teenagers. They're so much tougher than me. Well, I guess that's not going to happen. So I just went on and I was an admin assistant and legal secretary for a while, and then I became a landscaper and ran my landscaping business for a long time. And then I started working in nonprofits and I really thrived there too, and became a director of finance and worked as the director of finance for several nonprofits for about 10 years. And then I burned out. The nonprofit world is a hard world to be in.
Oh, I know.
And as with ADHD, it's just that much harder. And, there's so many opportunities to say yes and to do new things, to do more things, to wear more hats, to, throw more balls in the air. And I did all of it. And,
Uh-huh.
and then about 10 years in, I just burnt out and I got laid off. And I was exhausted and I was sick. I had a high temperature every day for almost 2 years after that. Our bodies really tell us when you need to figure something else out.
Yeah.
I was in a lot of pain. It was just that my whole body was just done. And I went and got an ADHD coach. And I worked with Tracy Outsuka of ADHD for Smartass Women. Loved her whole stance, and it was
Mhm.
so amazingly helpful for me that I went and became a ADHD coach myself. And the best thing about it is, as I learned how to be an ADHD coach, I realized I was doing exactly what I wanted to be after
Yeah.
college. I wanted to be empowering people to live in their own strengths and in their own thriving way. And that's what I get to do now.
Wow. That's beautiful. Love that. Good for
Yeah,
you.
it only took 25, 30 years for me to start
No,
using my degree.
but I think that's normal, right? Nobody,
Mhm.
especially with an ADHD brain, have it all figured out when you're
Yeah.
20 or whatever. Some people know exactly what they want to do and they go to school and they do. That's not me either. I've never been diagnosed with ADHD or ADD. I know the one is hyperactivity, but it's all the same, right? Your brain acts the same.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
there's only one diagnosis now. It's all
Okay.
ADHD.
Okay.
So
Very good.
it's sort of whether the hyperactive is in here or the hyperactive is in your body.
Okay. So
That
it
is a
was
very simplified version of what the difference.
right. My dad has
Yeah,
it and my son has it, right?
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
it's absolutely in the blood
It,
then yeah.
yeah,
And
it
that
is 88% heritable. So it's more inheritable than hair color.
wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Do you find people like myself who have never been diagnosed? How do you know if it's ADHD or is it something else? Does it mimic another?
That is really good question. A little bit complex, a little
Yeah.
complex. So the reason why that there's two main reasons why I think it's important to get actually diagnosed if if these reasons matter to you. One of
Right.
them is if you are worried that you're just making it up in your head. If you
Right.
are feeling that imposter syndrome of I think I have this, but I feel like I'm just using it as an excuse. Am I just making up excuses for why I can't do things or why things are different for
Right.
me?
Right.
Or do I really have it? So if you have that insecurity, then it's great
Mhm.
to get
Yeah.
diagnosed because that helps
Mhm.
alleviate that. And we are famous for having that kind of imposter syndrome. ADHDers are so good at questioning ourselves on every and there's reasons which I'm sure we'll talk about later why we're so good at questioning ourselves. But the other reason is if you want to seek medication or accommodation at work. So for ADHD, there are some really unfortunate outcomes if you don't treat it. If you don't manage, I don't want to say treat it. I actually really think it's an evolutionary difference. It is not a deficiency. I do believe it's a disability in our culture, but I don't believe it's actually a deficiency. It can take, if you don't manage it, it can take 9 to 12 years off of our lives. It is, our life expectancy is much lower than the
Right.
general population.
Is that because of
And
stress that's caused by
it's,
it?
yeah, it's a whole gamut of things. We tend to get into less healthy relationships because we have different
Have no
brains
self.
and things are
Yeah.
challenging. We tend to have a fair amount of trauma because we've been told over and over again all of our lives how difficult we are in our lives and for everybody else, right? And there's a lot of family cycles that happen with ADHD. And that can cause some challenges too. We tend to be our risk seekers
Mm.
because we have low dopamine. So then, sadly, depression and suicidality are also really prevalent
Right.
in ADHD, which is because we've told over and over again, we're bad, we're wrong, we could do it, but we don't, we're morally bad.
And
Just
we
can't
don't
make
listen to
it
that
work. Yeah.
nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so hard to make it work in this culture. And so if you don't have that understanding of your brain, then you're just wondering, why am I like this? What's going on? Oh,
Mm.
and anxiety, also super high level of
Yep.
anxiety co-occurrence with ADHD.
Yep.
And then on top of that, now some really fascinating, interesting stuff that they're finding. Like 80% of people with Ehlers-Danlos, which is hypermobility, also have ADHD. People with ADHD experience POTS at a high level, which is a heart condition where if you stand up fast, you faint.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we typically experience MCAS, which is a mast cell. Our bodies decide we're allergic to various things and various times for unknown reasons. We have all of these physical conditions. Fibromyalgia, also 80% of people with fibromyalgia have ADHD. These things they're finding now are just really accentuating. This is not a brain deficiency. This is a whole body difference. There's got to be a reason why it affects 10% or up to 10% of the population.
I would think it's even more than that. It
Yeah.
seems like
Mhm.
there's so many more people. What do you think when it comes to ADHD? Can food impact it or help if you change your food?
Yes, your
It,
food can impact it.
right.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty well documented that a high protein diet, not no carbs, not low carb even, but a high protein diet can help you maintain the blood sugar that's required to keep your brain as healthy and working as well as
Functioning. Yep.
possible. If you're having a lot of fluctuations in blood sugar, then that can really mess with your ADHD. It messes with your dopamine system and your serotonin system and all the things that ADHD is also messing with.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. Yep.
yeah, so absolutely. You can improve your ADHD, improve your management by improving your diet.
I
Yeah.
think,
Mhm.
again, everybody's so different, right?
That just brought up a memory of mine. I was speaking with a nutritionist not too long ago. She's a therapist and nutritionist and also has ADHD, and she has like 5 or 6 different degrees and all different
Yeah.
kinds of things.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
you do have ADHD, don't you?" And she has
Yeah.
been studying nutrition and ADHD sort of as a late, on the side for a
Yeah.
long time. And she says, yes, food can really help, but it is different. The diet is different for every single person, and
Every
vitamins are
person.
different for every single person. So
Every
you can't
person.
just prescribe
Nope.
a diet. It's a trial and error, just like what you were saying. Trial and error.
Absolutely.
What works for you?
Yep, absolutely. That's what I was saying. Like myself, I was always healthy and I ate healthy, what they say was healthy, right? But it wasn't healthy for me. Some people thrive on vegetables and that kind of stuff. I did not. My gut didn't like it. I ended up with fibromyalgia, Hashimoto's, the whole gamut, hypothyroidism. But I had to go to carnivore. I had to go to that extreme. Everybody doesn't need to go to that extreme, right? You just get rid of the garbage food first and you're probably going to feel 1,000 times better. Your brain will
Right.
absolutely be clearer. And then if you need to keep going further, you keep going further, baby step it. But yeah, absolutely. I love that. Okay.
This is what I consider the saddest statistic, which is we hear on average 20,000 more negative things about ourselves by the time we're 7. And that does not stop. And so we are basically just berated all the time for everything. And as I alluded to earlier, there are moral judgments too. I know you can, because it's a sort of paradoxical situation. Sometimes we can just hit the ball out of the park. But then sometimes we can't even pick up the damn ball. It's just like, well, why can't you do this? It's clearly just because you don't want to, because I just saw you hit it a home run.
Yeah.
So it's this moral judgment that, like, over and over and over again, I know you can, but you won't. No, you can, but you won't. I know you can behave, but you're being disruptive. I know
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
do your homework. You're just not doing it now. And we internalize that too. And then we start being our own beraters,
Absolutely.
and the self-confidence in especially undiagnosed ADHDers is plummets.
Yeah.
Plummets.
Yeah.
We have some of the lowest self-confidence, self-esteem of anybody. And it's devastating.
How would you help somebody that's thinking that way? How would you recommend, like, okay, that doesn't serve us well by thinking
No,
that way. So
no.
let's turn that around to a positive side. How do we get somebody to start baby stepping their way out of that thought process?
Yeah. It's hard. You alluded to it at the beginning when you introduced me. It's all about strengths work. Where do our strengths lie? How do we work in our strengths? We can do anything. They think Albert Einstein was an ADHD, or
Yeah.
Richard
Yeah.
Branson.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Richard, the founder of Nike, all ADHD. And
a lot of them,
yeah,
right?
we
Yeah.
can do it. We can do anything. Uh and it's harder. And so we ruin ourselves by pushing and pushing and pushing, and we exhaust ourselves.
How do we
Yeah.
do positive self-talk?
And one of the things is, and where I was trying to go with, but got distracted, because ADHD, was that even things that aren't our strengths, we can still do them, but they cause this exhaustion, they cause this stress, they cause this overwhelm. So what we need to do is find out where our brains are happy. What do our brains really want to be doing? And figure out how to create our systems to involve our easy strengths, the things that we really do well in without a whole ton of effort. And so this strengths work it definitely includes positive self-talk, for sure. Our societies don't work well for ADHD brains. So the way our culture is not a good place. Doing standard things in our culture is not a good thing for our brains. So we need to figure out, how do we fit our lives into our brains instead of trying to fit our brains into the life that we keep on being told that we should have? Yeah. So, like, okay, 9 to 5 job, does that work for you? Maybe it doesn't. We tend to have tremendous sleep disorders. So a lot of us, our sleep cycles are disrupted. So we tend to be night owls, sleep late in the morning, or sort of the opposite. We tend to be really early. So we need to figure out, though, what's going to work for our brains instead of trying to do what everybody else says. It's similar to nutrition. It's just like nutrition. We have to figure out what works for us. We are all different. We all have different ways of doing, in ways that our brains are happy, and we just have to work on it and figure it out.
Yeah.
But the strengths work come in. It's like that's part of the strengths work, but also, as you were talking about, the positive self-talk, figuring out how to not beat ourselves into some other life, but to ease ourselves into the life that we are happy in. And that may mean that it looks different to some people. and that's okay.
Do you ever have people write a list of, just a list of your strengths? And it can be the smallest thing, whatever your little thing might be, just to kind of get yourself used to giving yourself that, hey, you're pretty darn good at this.
I do, and then when they read
Good.
that list back to me and they say, "I'm really good at this," anybody can do that. Then we work on, "Okay, so how do you say you're really good at this?" And not say "but"
And it.
afterwards. You
Yep.
can be good at things, and you are good at things,
Yeah.
and don't throw a big pile of dirt on top of it.
Yeah. There's so many things that you think everybody's good at, but they're just not. Everybody
Right,
has
right,
their
yeah.
own unique little
Mhm.
skills. Good.
Yeah, I've had PhD candidates tell me that they're terrible at school. Can you show me how that's true? Yeah, because
Yeah.
it looks to me like you're a PhD candidate, and you could not possibly be because this is where you are right now. One of the reasons why a lot of us ADHDers think that so many people have ADHD is because we tend to attract people with ADHD. I do think that it's higher than what the research says, but I'm not sure that it's a huge amount higher. I just think that we surround ourselves with people that are weird brains.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of
So
entrepreneurs too, because that's just the way
oh, for
our
sure.
brains
Oh,
work.
yeah. One of the major ADHD authors, I heard hearsay that he said that 75% of successful entrepreneurs experience ADHD, but he goes on to think that to say that he thinks that the successful ones, most of them pretty much have ADHD.
Yeah.
Because we think outside of the box. We're creative. We're problem
Absolutely.
solvers. We're
Yeah.
great at making connections. We have so many strengths. It makes me so sad when people are like, well, I can't do anything. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you can. Oh, your brain is so beautiful.
Do everything.
Yes. Yeah.
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 There's somebody's watching right now, and they have ADD and they're struggling. What tips to make their life a little bit easier? What's a couple things they can do? That might not work for everybody, but just something that you would suggest.
I would say there's some tips that work pretty well for a lot of people. And the first one is exactly what we've been talking about, just understanding that your brain is amazing and beautiful and brilliant. Like just that little switch.
Mm.
And so you can do that. And a lot of people have a really hard time with that. I have an exercise that I do with my clients now. And I'm turning it into a workshop, but it is about uncovering your true essence of all of your
Nice.
beautiful things about yourself, and beautiful strengths and what they mean to you. This exercise in one form was given to me when I was in coach school. It took me 3 years to find more than one thing that told me how brilliant I was. Everything else I threw dirt on. It was one thing, and even that I threw dirt on. It took me 3 years. So there's steps, though. There's baby steps that we can take to make it easier. And one of those is just a gratitude practice, except for instead of gratitude for others and outside, which I encourage you also to do, gratitude for yourself. Celebrate yourself. Write down 3 things every day that you've done that were amazing or good or that made you feel proud or that made somebody else smile or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Write down 3 things every day. And that will help you get into it. Actually rewires your brain. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
And so that will help you get into this, starting to look for your strengths instead of and look at your strengths and look to your strengths to help you organize your life. So that's number one. And then number two is just start working on how to take that. Is it the round peg and the square hole? Square peg and
Both.
round hole. Whichever. Take the peg out if you can. Don't try to keep forcing your brain to do what doesn't work for you. Just start taking little steps like, okay, well, maybe I could figure out a different way to do that because that's hard for me in my ADHD brain. I figure out a
Right.
different, yeah. And it's not about, oh, I have ADHD, so you just have to deal with me.
Right.
It's not about that. And there are parts of that, with our spouses. Sometimes we have to say, I have ADHD. This is really challenging for me. And I'm trying my best. But you may have to sort of put up with some things that annoy you. But it's much more about figuring out systems that work for our brain and then also work for our people we're in relationship.
Right,
So
right. That's what I was kind of thinking. Instead of always saying, "Oh, I can't do this because I have ADHD." I'm not going to keep telling everybody every time something comes up. I'm just going to find a way to work with that. And so, no matter what comes up, I know, okay, in my brain, I need to do it this way. And
Mhm.
I'm sure your spouse would know you pretty good to know, all
Yeah.
right, we're doing it her way or his way,
Mhm.
whatever the situation
Right.
is. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes that way means asking for help, and
Absolutely.
that's okay. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And it's just and it's really important, right? So
Yeah.
important.
Very
Like,
important to ask for help. We're
yeah,
I keep hearing, "You're not an island." We're not an island, right? It's
we
okay.
are not.
No, you
Mhm.
gotta set boundaries for yourself. Respect your
Mhm.
own self-care in your own time, right?
Yeah.
It's not a weakness to ask for help or say, "You know
Yeah.
what?
No,
I need time to myself right now." That's okay. That's
mm,
allowed, right? And in
yeah.
society, especially women, we don't do
Mhm.
that enough, I don't think.
And I like to remind people it actually helps other people for you to ask for help. You're setting an example.
Yeah.
You are giving somebody opportunity to do something that's meaningful to them and to you.
Yeah.
Um, and you're creating community. And what do we need in this world more than community? I don't know.
Mm,
Right now, in this time
right.
frame, I can't imagine anything that we need more in our culture than community. So
I
these
agree
are the things that we
100%.
create when we're asking for help. And it's a beautiful gift to
It
yourself
is.
and to the others around you.
Yeah. Very well said. Love it. Nice. Good, good, good. All right. Is there anything else that you would like to share or you're thinking
Mhm.
like, oh, I really wanted to make sure I said this today, or I want somebody listening to hear this one thing?
Yes. Okay. This is the thing. Understand that there's a reason. So I talk a lot about how do we work in our strengths? How do we not throw dirt on our stuff? How do we not put down ourselves? But also we tend to, at that point, when we're starting to do this work, we tend to start putting ourselves down for putting ourselves down. And
Yeah, exactly.
and
Stop calling
so
yourself
so
stupid, stupid.
and so as you're going through that stage of things, which is just, it takes a long time trying to
So true.
remember, like, our brains, by telling us these things, by being mean to ourselves, they're trying to protect us. Our brain is doing what it learned with the stories it had, and it's trying to protect us by telling us this, by trying to force us to act in some other way so that our life might have been easier in some way,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like
For
whatever our
safety.
brain, the
Yeah.
stories, yeah, the stories that we get, our brain are trying to uphold those in a way to keep us safe from that ridicule. And so understanding that's a story, and our brain isn't trying to hurt us with that
Mm,
story. Our brain is trying to protect us. So
mm,
if there's a way to say, okay, thanks brain, that story, I hear you. It worked for a while. Um, let's try a different story now.
mhm.
And because that story's not helping me anymore. Let's try a different story. So instead of shaming ourselves into not shaming ourselves, let's try to reframe the whole thing. And interestingly, if we talk about our brain as a different entity, for some reason,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there's
Yeah.
a lot of great neuroscience out
Disassociate.
there
Yeah.
it's like says what it is,
Yeah.
right? If we tell our brains or act like our brains are a different being, then our brains believe us a lot more than if I just say I shouldn't. I was just trying to protect myself by doing this. My brain doesn't believe me. My kid,
Yeah.
Alex calls my his brain Brian. So
Yeah.
because
There you go.
but so Brian was just trying to protect me, or whatever you need to name your brain to do it. And you can even
Yeah.
call it your name. Yeah, Sue was trying to protect me. For some reason, some sort of dissociation, our brains believe that more.
Yeah.
And so it's another way to help us get our brains
Okay.
to tell ourselves different stories, more
Yeah.
positive stories.
Yes. Yeah, those stories, boy, they'll get you every time. They'll keep
Oh,
you
they
stuck
will.
if you don't
Yep.
change them.
Mm.
All right. So, how do people get in touch with you or get your book?
Sure. I think the book is available on Amazon pretty much worldwide. But my favorite way is for you to go into your local bookstore and ask to order it. And that also creates community and supports the local store. And you can also get it, I think, at Barnes and Noble and bookshop.com. So basically anywhere. You
Wow.
do have to order it. You can't just go
Yeah.
into a bookstore and grab it. And you can reach me at my website, pathwaysforwardcoaching.com. Also, I have a Substack. I can't remember what it is, so I'm going to have to email it to you.
Perfect. All right. Yeah. If you send me an email with all your links, I will make sure they get in the show notes. Well, thanks again for being here. Always fun talking to you. And I know you're having a rough week, so I hope your week gets better. Keep
Thank you.
positive.
Yes. Well,
All
this was
right.
a really good shift for me. I'm
Perfect.
excited after a great positive conversation. I get to go and have a better rest of
Keep
my
it
week.
up. That's
Yes.
good for you. Nice. All right. Well, thanks so much. And for anybody watching, if this episode resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and we will see you on the next Conversation That Heals. Okay. Bye bye. Thank you for listening to the Conversations That Heal. If something in this episode helped you feel seen or gave you one small thing to try, that's your next step. Start there. If you want more, check out this video next. Stay well, and we'll see you in the next Conversation That Heals.